Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I think we can get started. So, dear colleagues, friends, guests, ladies and gentlemen, as the Joint Director of the European Institute for International Economic Relations and the Research Institute of the bdvb, it is my great pleasure to welcome you here at the Industrie-Club in Düsseldorf for what hopefully will be an interesting conference on the topic of overcoming the euro crisis. bdvb is Germany's leading professional organization of economists and managers, and the bdvb Research Institute and the EIIW have joined forces to organize this workshop. Most of you will know the European Institute for International Economic Relations. Actually, next year we will turn 20, so we are still relatively young, but at least this is some important year for us. So we are very grateful that you all could come, and we look forward to interesting discussions. Integration analysis and international economics is part of the profile of the Institute, and we made some contributions in such fields as monetary integration, cluster analysis, transition economics, and Schumpeterian innovation analysis, as well as ICT analysis. Just recently, a special issue of the journal International Economics and Economic Policy was published. The bdvb Research Institute is a modern interface between the business community, research and economic policy, and the president of the bdvb, Mr. Peter Hermann, will welcome you also then today and tomorrow. Tomorrow he particularly will also read out the welcoming words of our Minister of Finance here in North Rhine-Westphalia. The Minister of Finance, Mr. Walter Borjans, sends you his warm words of welcome to this event. He has emphasized in his welcome remarks the importance of the challenges of the euro crisis and has pointed out that the Industrie-Club here in Düsseldorf is one of Germany's leading institutions for bringing together research, policymakers, and the business community. So I'm very grateful that so many researchers and representatives from government, central banks, industry, and the civil society will come to this conference and will present new research results, and hopefully we will have new enlightening discussions. Today we have a series of 1-hour presentations, basically 30 minutes for the presentation, 10 minutes for the discussion, and about 20 minutes for questions from the audience. And the session chairman or chairwoman will have an eye on time allocation. So Agnès Benassi-Kéré, unfortunately, will be a little bit later. As you know, we have a strike in Germany. Weather is like Italy, maybe other things also will look more like Italy. So that should not be a problem, and she will join us just a little bit later. So it is just 3 years ago when we had the rather unexpected euro crisis. It exploded with the collapse of Greece, which had lost access to international capital markets in late 2009, an election year, when the new government found out that the deficit GDP ratio was about 12%, it was thought then, instead of the 4% notified by the previous government to the European Commission at the beginning of the year. Dramatic rescuing measures were adopted in 2010 by Euro partner countries and the EU respectively. The apparent success story of the first decade of the euro seemed to be a distant past. Greece was followed by Ireland in 2010 as a crisis country. In 2011, Portugal joined the crisis group, and in that year also Italy and Spain faced higher interest rates. The long period of transitory interest rate divergence has started. At least we should expect maybe for a few more years to see particular problems with Greece. 2012, Cyprus was the latest victim of negative euro dynamics. However, the four smaller countries together do not stand for more than 6% of euro area's GDP, and Spain, which had some specific banking problems, could escape in late 2012 the banking crisis. The transitory Euro Rescue Fund was followed by the Permanent Rescue Fund ESM in 2012, but most notably was the role of the European Central Bank, which found itself in strange uncharted waters when it bought a first batch of bonds from crisis countries, altogether not more than 2% of euro area GDP. announcing a new conditional bond purchase program in September 2012, the OMT program linked to countries seeking ESM support and getting it. The ECB contributed to easing just by announcing that program to downward interest rate movements in several Euro countries. But it was not fully clear whether the ECB's announcement of a new monetary policy instrument indeed was purely a monetary policy instrument, a necessary impulse to avoid a bad equilibrium in the situation of non-unique equilibrium settings, or was it just kind of hidden fiscal policy? As you know, the German Constitutional Court has raised doubts recently whether or not the OMT program is covered by the mandate of the ECB. We will discuss this and other monetary and capital market matters, as well as the prospects for the real economy and policy reforms in the euro areas and in other countries today and tomorrow. Now, without further ado, let us move to the first paper presentation. However, I have an important request. I should like to request that paper presenters stand in front of the microphone and actually use also a microphone, so that our camera, which is recording presentations for later dissemination in the internet, assuming that presenters will agree, really are in the angle of the camera. So don't move away from the podium. You do not want to create the impression that you are in a hurry or that we all of a sudden have a bank run or banking crisis. So if you just stand in front of the mic, this would be wonderful. So the first presentation then is by Holger Schmieding. Thank you.